the desert of the real.
I am your host, Ryan Hudson. Welcome to Desert of the Real, a movie podcast where I force my co-host, Jason Dietz, to watch all the big blockbuster movies he's refused to watch because he didn't think they were worth his time. We're two high school English/film/philosophy/creativity teachers with graduate degrees using our academic training to dig deeply into movies. We explore the creativity and philosophy in our films and push our listeners to think critically about their entertainment. And today we're joined with a special guest star.
You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Chris Loomis, and I am a fellow teacher, but in the science variety.
Jason, what movie did we watch this week?
We watched Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
It's really good.
Actually, this is the first time that I actually agree with you. This is the first movie of the MCU that I pushed the little heart button on Letterboxd.
Way. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. I liked this movie a lot.
It's your favorite above Avengers now.
Yes.
Nice.
Yep.
Chris,
This is one of my favorite movies, of the
just
Marvel
of
movies.
the Marvel variety.
Yeah.
This came out in 2014?
Yeah,
Where were you
man.
in 2014?
2014, that was, I believe it came out in the winter time.
How do you guys remember that?
Because I had just started my first teaching job.
Whoa.
I had graduated in the spring, moved to Vegas, started teaching. In most Marvel movies, I remember where I was.
Yeah, I use it to keep track of my life, like it's a milestone.
Mine is like the Challenger explosion. You guys is like
I don't even know what you're talking
Thor:
about.
The
What's
Dark
going on?
World came out.
Well, that one was, I don't remember.
Yeah, 9/11, don't remember where I was, but you know.
9/11. You don't remember?
No,
where
I
you were?
do. That
Holy
was
crap.
being facetious.
Okay, well.
I was in second grade.
Stop
though,
it.
so.
There's no facetious. This is a no
This is
facetious.
a serious.
We're serious
podcast.
podcasters.
Jason's going to give us a summary, and it's not going to be snarky, probably.
No, this will be the first one.
Yeah.
Except for
Well,
a few
there's a
little
few.
bits. So we've got something mysterious going on. Captain America is now kind of reintegrated into society. Get a sense very early that something's not right in, Denmark or whatever the phrase is. What's the phrase?
Something's rotten in the state of Denmark.
Rotten in the state of Denmark. Thank you. Nick Fury is obviously ill at ease, trying to figure it out. He takes Captain America, shows him these enormous ships of doom.
The Helicarrier 2.0.
Helicarrier 2.0 of doom.
Yeah.
I think they should have said of doom.
Yeah.
That would have
It would help
really
most things in life,
emphasized
yeah.
the power of this thing. But
Of Death would have been 2 on the nose.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like a Death
It's
Star
just
type of
doom.
thing.
And then the crap starts happening.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest crap, and I'm introducing now a new thing called eye rolls. These are not going to be nitpicks. They're just moments where I'm like rolling my eyes. So Nick Fury dies.
Mm-hmm.
Ha, ha, ha.
To be fair, that's maybe a major issue with a lot of Marvel movies.
In all fairness, that's a very common motif in comic books in general.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
So he's tragically now dead. So we're trying to figure out what's going on. And in the course of figuring out what's going on, they come across Toby Jones's character.
He's a computer
now.
Mm-hmm. Zola,
yeah.
something.
That's his name? Zola. And he stalls long enough for the explosion to happen in which nobody dies either. We meet the Winter Soldier, and I thought they did a really good job of shrouding him in mystery, but because it was so shrouded in mystery, I knew I was going to be pissed off when it was revealed whoever it was, and I was pissed off. So it's Bucky.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, shock. And then, we have the whole Captain America coming up with this plan to kind of thwart Hydra. We find Hydra has infiltrated basically everything.
Yeah.
And then magically Nick Fury has resurrected. He has a solution to the problem, and the solution is one of my eye rolls. They have to sneak onto this heavily fortified, heavily defended carrier, push a button, which brings this column up in this room that no one is in, no one is guarding, and they have to switch out a chip. Okay, that seems like
what's
a design
wrong with
flaw.
that?
Like my son could walk into this room, push the button, and be like, oh look, I could break this. So they successfully put 2 of the 3, and then we have this quote-unquote epic battle between Captain America and the Winter Soldier, in which we're all on the edge of not our seats at all, trying to decide, is he going to lose the little chip or not? He doesn't lose the little chip, but for some reason, Bucky is able to shoot him where he's been through all this. Like, he freaking jumped out of an airplane with no parachute, landed with no damage at all, but somehow Bucky's shooting him in the leg. We have this very, dramatic moment where Captain America maybe, is he not going to be able, but he does do it. And then explosions happen, and Bucky saves Captain America.
Yeah.
Black Widow is able to kill a whole bunch of people and
That's what she's good at.
and
her one thing she
dismantle
does.
Hydra. The end.
Anyway,
Any thoughts on
on
the general summary before we?
yeah, okay. I think here's the thing. Yes, technically, how to stop the bad guy, it's get the chips in.
Yes.
But it's very clear and obvious, like what they need to do, and then it's harder said than done, type of thing. But it can't.
it wasn't
you can't
very-
get
it
too
wasn't
bogged
that
down
hard.
as movies.
It wasn't that hard.
For 2 of them,
Like, they just walked into the room and they're like, poke,
yeah,
put.
they didn't
Well,
know
I
it was
would
gonna happen.
also say one of the key components of their entire plan is also to leak all the information, shield information,
I forgot
and
that.
Hydra. So that was one of their components to
That's
make
true.
sure the public knew what was going on.
I forgot that part.
That's
And
one of the most interesting things. I
Second
think.
thing, would you expect that area to be super well guarded? They were confident enough that I don't think anybody thought they
Yeah,
would get.
no one was on the ship at all.
But when you're designing a ship, let's, I don't know, draw a parallel to the Death Star.
Okay.
You're designing the Death Star.
Are you gonna-
Are you going to leave a little hole that goes directly into the center of the thing where it will explode? Probably not. I feel like that same design flaw happened here.
Okay, on one hand, yes, as a story, we need it to be clear and concise for an audience.
Right,
to
I understand
not get
the flow.
lost. But before even Rogue One came out, exhaust ports, they need a way out. Like, it's a way...
I would also say probably for the sake of the movie, because I had forgotten how long this movie
Yeah, it's like
was.
2 hours,
Yeah,
30
it
minutes.
is.
And I think it's 2 hours well spent in terms of like building up the story.
I agree.
And so to have a very quick action scene, I think benefits the movie instead of having a super long, drawn-out action scene towards the end.
Yeah, you know what? Wait for the
That's fair.
film studies of the real. I'm going to bring it up
That's
later
fair.
on.
Because one of the big problems I have with all of the others is the absurdity of the last 20 minutes.
See, that's why,
And this was less absurd.
as opposed to Thor the Dark World, where 9 realms were at stake,
That's
this is just
7 million
7 million people. That's a big
Just
number.
DC, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, actually, you know.
Come to think
Gotta
of
think of it.
I
They
can
got some
think of a
points
few
here.
people. But
Yeah, so it's the
That's
smaller
fair.
scale
That's
does
fair.
help out a lot.
And I have lots of eye rolls in terms of just the physics of a lot of
Yes.
the...
This
of the
movie?
Thank you.
Of this
Okay.
movie?
Sam Wilson should have died multiple times over in this
Wait,
movie.
who's Sam Wilson?
He's the
He's
Falcon.
He was thrown out of a car and rolled out of it as if it was
Yeah.
nothing.
Well,
on the highway,
he skidded on the door and then slid off.
off the freeway. He
Yeah.
survived.
Mm-hmm.
He fell from several stories into a helicopter.
Name one
And-
thing that doesn't make sense.
And he gets beaten up pretty regularly.
I have a kindred
So-
spirit.
All right.
Finally.
All right.
And so there's a lot of like Fast and Furious mechanics going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, not as bad as Fast and Furious.
And so
where-
I will say on that, those are my eye rolls, like the physics behind it. But at the same time, it is a comic book movie.
Yeah.
Captain
Yeah,
America's
hear that?
shield
Hear that?
technically
It
doesn't
is a-
make sense.
You hear that?
Anyhow, we have already. We're not doing the shield again.
All right. Here's my positive. I like Captain America's list. He's got Star Wars on there, Thai food, Nirvana. Berlin Wall, in parentheses, up and down. Stuff like that's funny.
A little fun fact: depending on where that film was shown, the list changes
Oh,
That's awesome.
that is awesome.
to make it more like relevant.
I think this is Captain America's best suit out of all the movies.
Are you talking about the stealth suit?
Yeah, and then he changes into like the World War II one. I think it looks so cool in this one. The best other contender is Infinity War suit.
It is more of the modern take on his like comic book adaptations. Is that suit?
I agree.
I think what I like is definitely the humanization of Captain America.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring
in
this up too.
Me too.
He is obviously considered one of the greatest superheroes in this universe. He is often looked up to as the symbol of like always knowing what to do and what's correct, and obviously he's wavering on what his own morals are and what
Yeah.
he supports, and it's showing him having to find his own path without having an institution be the one to
Tell him.
establish it, so that he's no longer just the soldier, but he's now the leader.
Yeah.
See, you're one of your big problems, Jason, was you didn't like how one note he was in the first movie. This is the beginning where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
he's questioning authority now. He's
Yep.
doing things that he probably wouldn't have done the last time we saw him. So he does change as a character throughout 10 years. He's now not a soldier who just follows orders
Yeah.
only.
Yeah, I loved the character development in this.
I have a fun fact. You know the guy he fights on the boat at the beginning? I think this scene looks cool. This feels like this is the spy movie that also happens to be a superhero movie.
Right.
And he's on the boat, he's fighting people like with his shield and everything.
Very like in a stealth mode
Yeah.
type scenario.
It could look like maybe like a spy movie. But he fights one guy that kind of is harder to fight. This guy's name,
Like the ninja guy.
yeah,
that's
who jumps.
Yeah.
His name is Batroc the Leaper. Did you know that?
I didn't remember that, but I remember he was a super obscure like
Yeah.
comic book
Little
reference.
guy.
Yeah, and he comes back in the Winter Soldier.
Are you talking about the Falcon and the Winter
Yeah.
Soldier? Okay.
Batroc comes back. Everyone's favorite character, Batroc the Leaper.
that nobody knew was a character.
One tiny detail that goes a long way, especially at this beginning scene, is little water droplets on the lens itself. To me, it like makes it feel more like a grounded movie. And a lot of movies, especially big blockbusters, won't do stuff like that because the water might not even be real anymore, type of thing.
Yeah.
But it helps ground this movie.
It does.
Does a lot.
Like so my favorite genre is horror movie. Those are the moments in a horror movie where it takes away kind of the separation of the screen.
Yeah.
It forces you closer to what's going on. Like when, somebody gets slashed and the blood gets on the camera. Yeah.
It
It does a great job of drawing you in. So,
My favorite example of that is Children of Men. Where
Yes,
it was
yes.
unintentional, but it makes the scene so much better.
Oh my gosh,
Some
yes.
droplets of blood, and then anyway, that
Yeah.
movie's so good.
That is so good.
Let's see other things I like. Oh, okay. Speaking of like the camera stuff, shaky cam. Once again, Jason Bourne or Bourne Supremacy. The shaky cam fighting became super popular, and then a lot of movies didn't do it well afterwards. And now we're turned away from that, and you can't do shaky cam anymore. Because you're usually trying to hide the fact the actor can't fight in real life, that type of stuff. But this movie, it's like a handheld camera, even like when they're just talking, like a conversation. And once again, grounds this. It looks way different than Thor Dark World.
Yeah.
Looks way different than Avengers. And even Iron Man 3. It's just does a lot of the little steps that go a big way to make it feel like a different genre, different tone, all that stuff.
Yeah.
A little goes a long way. Stuff like that's really cool, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I even have a couple positives.
Whoa, who are you?
I don't know. So the elevator scene. So there's a scene in the movie where Captain America's going down in an elevator.
I'm going to come back to this too.
This is the first time in the MCU where I actually felt the tension building. Initially, he's just riding in an elevator and a couple people get on and they're having this. So they did a fantastic job building the tension. And so that whole elevator scene for me is the best thing so far in the MCU.
It's so good.
No, it's iconic.
Yeah.
Is it?
Have
Okay.
you seen Community?
Yes.
They remake this scene in season 6
I don't remember
during one of the paintball episodes. It's a tribute to this scene.
because it's the same directors.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
We
is
could
it?
talk about
Yes, it's the Russo brothers. that-
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we talked not yesterday, last week,
week.
where they get directors for big blockbusters. Russo Bros came from TV, and a big thing was Community. And this was like their big first thing.
Well,
Yeah.
they did an excellent job on it.
Yeah.
That's why there's like that one actor from Community that's
Yeah.
in it. So
And then Community actors keep showing up in their later ones, too.
Cool.
Yeah.
One of my issues I had with the Avengers was Captain America and Black Widow didn't seem to fit in what was going on at the end. Like, we've got Hulk taking down enormous space whales, and, Thor is doing his thing, and then what is Captain America doing? Basically nothing. This is where Captain America and Black Widow are amazing. Like, the things that they do here, I don't think that Iron Man or Hulk or Thor could do.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping as we move further into the MCU, directors become more aware of not trying to make Captain America and what he's doing equivalent to what Thor or Iron Man is doing, because he's got his own strengths.
Yeah.
He's got his own, and it's not, fighting enormous battles.
Yeah.
It's the stuff that he's doing here with Black Widow. So I loved that. And
Yeah.
this is the moment where, Captain America moved off of my least favorite. He may have moved up.
He moved up, yeah.
I
I
don't
see
know.
that.
Robert Redford.
Robert Redford's
I
in
love
this.
Robert Redford.
Isn't that awesome?
He does, and I don't remember him ever being a bad guy. So that was awesome.
Also,
I loved Robert Redford.
Robert Redford, if they made these movies in the 70s, would have been like Captain
Yeah, he would have
America.
been Captain
He would have been
America.
like that actor,
Right.
you know?
Now he's the bad guy. That was awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
I love the brain upload. Toby.
Okay.
Oh, Zola, right. Being
I'm gonna double
uploaded.
check to make sure that's the actual right name.
It might be something
I
different.
think that's awesome because in science fiction, that's one of the things that's always just hanging
Yeah.
in science fiction that I don't know that we're that far off now.
Right, with
from
AI?
being able to do that.
Well-
And so I thought that was a really cool thing that they threw in.
It's also cool how they adapted from the comics. Because I show you a picture of what
Yeah.
he looks like a body with a
Yeah.
face on
Much
his
better
chest.
in this movie than the comic. And then I think this has my favorite line so far.
What is it?
When Nick Fury is in the truck and,
Oh,
he's-
I
and they're
wrote this
like,
down, I
do
think.
this and do this. And he's like, that's not operational.
Yeah.
And he's like, what the freak is operational? He says, the air conditioning is
Yeah.
fully operational. It caught me off guard. So, yeah, those are my positives.
Just to bounce off of another positive for me, mentioning Dr. Zola, I think bringing the dilemma, and I'll try to phrase this the best I can, but it's almost like the movie is constantly struggling between the idea of what is more valuable, like freedom or security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we do go the route of security, do we actually lose a lot of freedom in
Yeah.
that? And so I think it's an interesting dilemma, and I think Dr. Zola is really the character that brings that to the forefront of people think they're safe because we've been taking away their freedom and they don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of scary that
It
way.
is.
I love the whole deal with Hydra in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, Hydra wants to kill off 20 million to
Is it
save
20 to
7
save 7
billion.
billion?
So, like, in the first movie, Hydra's like just Nazis. And Nazism, like World War II Nazis, is almost a brushstroke of evilness.
Yeah, anything evil.
It's all evil. Yeah, this is way more specific,
Yeah.
and it makes it way
Well, I mean,
more
part of that original
better.
idea was just to create a superior society.
Right, yeah.
And so now this is a modern take on that of we can make a better society if we just kill off the people that we know
yeah.
are not going to make it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's an open question if Hydra's evil or not.
I mean,
I really do.
it makes it like compared to the first one, way more sense why people would join it.
Right.
Like,
Because Red Skull was a moron.
Yeah.
And all the crap he was doing
also
was
his
stupid.
skull was red. That was
And
weird.
also, yeah, it looked like some kid's Play-Doh
Remember,
creation.
that was the serum. That was the serum bringing out the worst of him.
Oh yeah, see, it's all connected. Even before it's revealed that Hydra has infiltrated Shield, Captain's talking to Nick Fury inside when they see the helicarriers and stuff. Captain says, "I thought the punishment came after the crime."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Yeah, but we're trying to make the world safe." And then Captain says again, "By holding a gun to everyone on Earth and calling it protection."
Yeah.
Obviously, Captain America, he is the soldier, he's the Boy Scout and stuff, but he sees things, I don't know, like...
He's starting to become a critical thinker.
Right, exactly. He's starting to see things broader, you know. This one has a lot of good ideas.
He has an outside perspective now. He's not from this time zone.
Yeah.
He's everything to him seems just crazy and different and new.
That's true. So he can see the flaws because he's from the out. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good point.
Yeah, and as far as, like, you don't like sequels, this being a sequel, just that evolution of Hydra is a way intriguing place for it to go.
So you could use this movie as an argument for sequels.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, the first movie was pretty crap.
It's all right.
And so we take a pretty crap movie, we figure out what didn't work here, let's fix it and make a much, much better movie.
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing with like Terminator and T2.
Yeah.
The first Terminator, I mean, it's okay.
Yeah.
But it's really
As much as
nothing
it's a good
special.
movie,
T2
is way
I
better.
think is the best science fiction movie ever made. And so this is a good argument for why we do in some cases make sequels.
Was there a discourse about, is this one of the best sequels ever made when this came out? Because it kind of gets forgotten about in the plethora of
To
all
be
this.
honest, I don't think anybody really sees this as a sequel, just because Marvel itself is a never-ending sequel of events.
It's like a TV
And
show, kind of.
What makes this movie stand out a little bit different is I feel like most of the movies around this time period are really trying to build up to something bigger.
Yes.
And this one is so isolated from worrying about future movies. And even though the end credits does
What
lead
was the
to...
end credits?
It was showing Scarlet Witch and...
Oh, yeah.
And that one is Dr. Von Struckenberg or something like that. And they're found out because all those secrets got leaked. And that's what leads to Avengers Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Because the Avengers now know that this secret
Oh,
base
that's
is
right.
happening. And they're testing people, trying to give them powers, basically. They're
Yeah.
trying to recreate a super soldier.
So that end credit scene's like, oh, wait for the next thing.
Yeah, that was an eye
But that's
roll
the
for me.
only part that's like connected to a larger
Right.
Because,
film.
like, Thor 2, it's like, well, this was called an Infinity Stone by the end. This has
But
nothing
every
to do with
other
that.
movie feels like it has to be a stepping stone
Yeah.
to get to the end goal, and this movie doesn't feel that way,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
interesting because it's the Russo brothers that do Infinity War.
Well, yeah,
and
except
Endgame.
for this one's super important for Civil War,
Yes.
which is in turn super important for
Yes.
Infinity War. So
But instead of making it be like, this is how we're going to get there, it's like, the next movie is like, oh, this is what happened in the last movie, and now this is the rest of the story. Instead of like, no, I want to know what's happening right now and enjoy it now, not what's going to happen later. But
'Cause-
that's why I don't feel like I thought of this as a sequel, and I don't
Yeah.
think people really thought of it as sequels because all the Marvel movies are now sequels to each other.
What's funny is a student today told me, he's like, oh, I don't think of that as Captain America 2. I'm like, yeah, that's fair.
And
Okay.
even Civil War doesn't really feel like it is a
Yeah.
Captain America movie,
Yeah.
but it almost feels like an Avengers
It's
movie
Avengers,
because of how
like-
many characters they throw
Yeah,
in there.
2.5 or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like that.
So it's just interesting.
Yeah. I like how S.H.I.E.L.D. is run by bureaucrats.
Yeah.
Robert Redford's in charge, but has to answer to this council. And they don't even like masked people. Like, they don't like costumes doing stuff. So, yeah, it makes sense that the people funding everything might not be happy about what S.H.I.E.L.D. is doing. Anyway, should we move on to negatives?
Sure. I'll just give some eye rolls. Y'all don't need to respond. We don't need
We'll
to
eye
argue
roll
about
at
it.
your eye rolls.
Okay, if you can roll. So Nick Fury's death, I already eye rolled. They can't hit Nick Fury through his window. That's just...
bulletproof.
And then he's driving.
Okay.
And there's like probably 36 people shooting at this window. I would assume that Hydra would have hired people that could use a gun, but apparently not. But that's just a standard action movie BS thing.
Yes,
just
that
a roll
is.
eye. That's it. cutting a hole in the floor
With
roll eyes.
I like to think of that as a lightsaber.
I like to think of that
A
as
purple
bullcrap.
lightsaber.
To
That's
be able to cut
bullcrap.
through the road as well.
Yeah,
I know.
right. That was
Wait, was that a great? What was that?
so. That's a moment in the movie where they're like, "Oh crap, what are we gonna do?" And they're like, "Okay, we'll just have him cut a hole to the center of the earth and escape.
As
Whatever."
Bucky slowly walks
Right.
menacingly to the
Right. That's
But-
just a roll eye.
Those are movie antics.
Yeah.
I know. That's why it's just a roll eye. The countdown to 1,
The countdown to 1, which part are you?
just like
Yeah, what are you talking
3, 2,
when they're
and
about
then
to...
he's like,
Yes, I understand what you're
I
talking
hate
about.
that.
All right,
Drives
all
me
right.
nuts. Why don't you just do it at a minute 25 and call it? No, we have to create this fake tension. And which was, like, it was even more annoying because this movie did a fantastic job of creating tension in the elevator and knew
All
how
right.
to do it
Hold your
Without,
horses.
without cheap tricks.
without cheap tricks. Okay, so those are all my eye rolls, which are remarkably few for
Yeah.
so far.
I'm proud of you.
Well, I'm proud of the Russo brothers, apparently. Somebody figured out how to make a good movie.
And, and I feel like they continue to make good
I
movies
agree,
when
too.
they direct.
Okay.
So
Now,
I
film
have some
Twitter
hope
hates
now.
them, but
So the one issue I'd like to dig in deeper in is Bucky.
okay.
Of all the people on the planet that Hydra could have chosen to be the Winter Soldier, why Bucky? Because Bucky, even if you zit his brain 100 times, he has such a strong connection with Captain America that they had to have anticipated that that was going to be a problem.
Well, yeah.
well, obviously this is just for movie dramatization, but
Right.
in hindsight, though, Captain America sunk underneath. No one knew Captain America was existed.
That's a good point.
So Bucky being around, no one knew there was a Captain America while Bucky was doing all these hit jobs, basically.
That's
And
a good point.
And so with that, he was just this soldier that they found. I don't think they specifically said, "Oh, this is Captain America's friend. We need to keep him." And again, it's just comic book lore that
I
the
know
movie
that,
has to.
but it's...
Yeah, if anyone
And-
get mad at Stan Lee.
And comic book lore is nothing but the most dramatic reveals of all time.
Right.
Because I think in the comic books, Bucky was more of this sidekick that was just this go happy child.
Well, yeah,
He
at
was
first
like-
he was a child.
He
yeah.
was like a Robin
For Batman
to
and
Batman.
Robin, yeah.
He
Oh,
was
okay.
not like this grown man that was
But
like a protector to begin with.
to my limited knowledge, when Captain dies in the ice, he becomes Captain America after, like, during that time. I know things get reworked, but I thought that's what it was
I
like.
don't know if Bucky dies before Captain America gets iced in the comic
In the
books.
comics?
I believe so. And when when Winter Soldier becomes Captain America, it's because Captain America in a much later series does die. So
Later on.
Bucky takes up the mantle.
Because
of
I know
Captain America.
there's been lots of Captain Americas in
Yes.
comics. It gets all sorts of convoluted.
But I think Bucky actually does die first. And it was like a situation of a Jason Todd for Batman,
Yeah.
where Robin died, and then later on he becomes Red Hood. And
Yeah.
it's the exact same concept of a former sidekick
Yeah.
being your mortal enemy for a quick minute.
Yeah. I don't know. It
So-
felt like General Hospital to me. Like
Oh, yeah.
some kind of soap opera-y crap that it could have been anyone else. They're just trying to create again this
yeah.
false tension.
Okay, but
which is annoying
here's
because it's so good.
No, here's the thing. This is why I like that it's Bucky Barnes.
All right.
Well, like by the end fight, Captain America just stops fighting him. It's like, I'm not going to fight you.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't do that to anyone else.
Why does he need to do that?
Because he's not going to fight his only friend that's still alive.
Right, but if it was somebody else, he would have just kicked his trash, put the thing in, and away
Yeah,
we go.
but he knows Bucky's not being Bucky. Something's wrong with him. He wants to save his friend.
In all fairness, do you think Captain America would be the same advocate for his own freedom and feeling like everybody deserves that right if he didn't see his own best friend being enslaved and forced to do things against his will?
That's a really good point.
Because part of what I said earlier is like there's this constant struggle of the idea of freedom and the idea of safety and security. And basically Captain America and Bucky Barnes are the opposing forces in this movie. Bucky Barnes is, I'm going to create security by
Right.
enforcing it.
Right.
And Captain America is always a defender of freedom.
Yeah.
And so is Captain America right in that? Again, we were going to have this conversation later, but those are the two opposing forces, the constant. So if they had completely cut Bucky Barnes from this movie, it still would have been an interesting movie. It still would have been fascinating, but you need the Winter Soldier to have that moral dilemma be intensified, I believe.
Yeah, and you'll see
That makes sense.
later on, it's, I don't know, way better when it's someone like Bucky versus someone like Taskmaster. Remember that? That was a wet fart. I was like, oh. They like feel like they try to do it again, but like, eh.
Okay, from that perspective, then it's less of a problem. I guess it's stuck in my craw so much here because everything else about this movie works so well that like the kind of cheap emotional stuff just kind of.
In all honesty, like the only reason it's called The Winter Soldier is because of Bucky Barnes, but the whole movie is not about Bucky Barnes. It's about so many other things.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that was interesting that was such a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think that was, to be honest, more fan service to be like, oh my goodness, it's the Winter Soldier.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really my only complaint.
That's fair. I don't know if I have a major complaint.
Yeah, this is
I
a
don't
pretty
know.
dang good movie.
Yeah.
Again, just some of the silly mechanics of the movie is just what bothers me. Again, Sam Wilson should have died several times over. Several times. But at the same time, like, again, that's action movie shenanigans.
Yeah. What I think is cool is where Captain America is with his relationship with Black Widow. You know, we like to think, oh, all the heroes are best friends and stuff, which they kind of are. But at this movie is like, what do you want? And Captain America's like, how about a friend? And Black Widow's like, I think you're in the wrong business for a friend. Yeah. And you see how that progresses in the next few Avengers movies. It's kind of cool that they take the time to, like...
Seed it.
Yeah. It's kind of cool that way.
And it doesn't have to be, like, a romantic
interest. Exactly.
It's just straight up, like, they're just good friends.
But, like, I like how they're not forcing Black Widow to be in love with people.
Yeah. She's a
power. She just likes the flirt. Yeah, she just likes the flirt and taking advantage of people.
Yeah.
She uses it as her weapon.
All right, I like to introduce a new segment called Film Studies of the Real. The elevator scene is a masterclass of action and suspense. Yeah. Like you already said, like how they build that tension slowly. Because a good action scene is suspenseful. A guy walks in and just hand on the gun, you know, a little weird. Another guy walks in, just a bead of sweat. And you're putting it together with Captain America. The movie's not trying to like hide anything from you. You're like, oh no, something's gonna go down. But that build-up is what sets the payoff. The little things. Anyway, it sets it up where like hypothetically, all those men could have taken him down, probably. Mm-hmm. They had the electric things. They had the magnet handcuffs, which somehow were super powerful. He could barely get like out of it and stuff. And then it ends with the chair on top with the camera down below the above shot, or the God's eye point of view shot, where it's everyone on the ground, and he like kicks his shield up. There is a quote by, of all people, the guys who created South Park. They're talking about story beats. When you set up a story beat or an outline when you're writing a story, and you could put the words "and then" in between each story beat, it's boring.
Right.
Like this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. A good example and a bad example. In my film class, we watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that airplane fight, another airplane fight. We gotta get in this plane. But then the big guy steps out. Okay, we can fight the big guy. But then the guy's going to shoot him. So Marion knocks him out. But then the airplane starts spinning. Marion can stop that. But then she gets locked in the plane. But then the gas gets out. It's like building on and on and on. A great example of a bad example is Mandalorian 3. I hated how in Mandalorian Season 3, it's like, oh, I have to do this thing. Okay. He does the thing. No consequences. We didn't learn anything. He just did the thing. And that kept happening over and over again in Season 3 especially. I have to go prove I can fight them. Okay, I did that. They trust me. Like, there's no suspense. I think this movie, especially the elevator scene, because that's just... You've never seen a scene like that.
Another kind of iconic scene, though, if you're talking about the elevator scene, is when Winter Soldier catches his shield. That's pretty...
That's never happened before.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Cool.
That's all I got.
That's a good get. Okay, so our philosophy of the real, we've already talked a little bit about the exchange of freedom for safety. I want to kind of focus on two other things. So Black Widow at one point says, the truth is a matter of circumstance. What is truth is a massive question for philosophy. And so this movie definitely comes down on the side of truth is relative. It's based on where are you standing and what can you see at this moment. So philosophically, one of the reasons I love this movie is it's so much more complex in terms of that kind of question. Because in the first movie, Captain America would have been like, yes, truth is truth is truth. Here we get, okay, well, that's true. I should obey orders. But with this new piece of information, is that still true? And it does a good job of forcing us to think critically about what is influencing your perception of truth.
Yeah.
And should it be? Should you accept it? Should you be questioning those things? So that was really cool. The other thing that I thought was really interesting, multiple times in the movie, they said things like, sometimes the best we can do is start over. Or building a better world requires tearing the old one down. And so another one of the major philosophical questions is, how should society be organized? And what happens when our attempt to organize society doesn't go well?
Yeah, because, wait, hypothetically, that trade-off Hydra proposes doesn't sound bad on paper.
Like I said, it's an open question if they're evil or not.
Yeah, it's a million versus billion. That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
And, like, it's not the worst argument in the world.
Right.
I would just say, I mean, the method, though,
Yeah.
like to say, hey, we're going to save all these people, but sorry, you are the ones that have to go. Like, obviously, you don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
And so, like, is the method worth the end result?
There's a great Doctor Who episode with the space Titanic where, like, Doctor becomes friends with this one girl that you like, and there's, like, a jerk you don't like. And in the episode, spoiler, the girl died, but he survives, and someone mentions, like, man, how could a guy like him, like, survive, and others die?
Right.
And Doctor's like, you can't choose. Like, you can't... what type of person would you be if you're the one making those choices? Or
Right.
Yeah, but they were making the choices in Winter Soldier.
Right.
They were going to specifically target
Right.
people.
I know, but that's like...
That wasn't like some sort of like flipping a coin and be like, hey, this person dies because
Or,
fate
I guess I was thinking...
snapping your fingers. And
Hypothetically, Captain America or whatever could have, like, well, if we let you do that, I didn't do that type of thing.
Right.
You guys made the choice.
Right.
I just would benefit,
And
I guess.
I struggle with the argument of, like, even if there's such a perfect algorithm
Yeah.
was able to say, in order to save the majority of people, this is the people that need to go. I mean, how in the world can an algorithm really define the potential of a person?
Yeah.
This is almost
But
like
that
a
idea is
Minority
really cool.
Report situation.
Right.
as
Yeah,
well.
right. That's another good...
I think the idea of predictive psychology is super interesting, which is what this is based on. Like, or if we want to go into theology, the idea that God knows everything, atheists generally would say, okay, then we don't have free will because God knows what we're going to do. Actually, what a theist would say is, no, it's just predictive psychology. He knows us so well, he knows all of everything about us that he can accurately predict what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Has Hydra created a God-level algorithm? I don't know, but
But you know that algorithm is definitely not going to leave any of the superheroes alive, though.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way.
For sure.
And so...
I think, doesn't it show, like, Tony Stark's building? It shows all these dots.
Right.
I think there's a dot in Tony Stark's penthouse. So.
Sure.
And to me, really killing all the superheroes is how to make a better society. See, there's something off about that to
Yeah.
me.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know, but... So what we're talking about is utilitarian ethics.
Yeah.
The
Of
greatest
course.
good for the greatest number of people.
Right.
Spock.
And... What?
I said Spock, but...
Okay. SpongeBob. Yeah.
No, Spock, one must die for the bet, you know.
Oh,
that
okay.
quote from
Yes,
that one movie.
One quote.
Uh,
So yeah, this is one of the best movies I've seen for calling utilitarian ethics into question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we can get rid of these people, everyone else benefits. Shouldn't we do it? And that's why I think it's an open question still for us if Hydra's actually evil. Or do they actually genuinely want the other 7 billion people on the planet to live significantly better lives? And I would have a hard time making an argument either way.
I'm still on the side of, I think the idea of that is an evil approach in the sense
Sure.
of the method, but then also the like management of that system as well. Because like Nick Fury says, I have a gun pointed at everybody's head and
Sure.
I can fire it whenever I want to. Hydra having that control,
Yeah.
to me, that feels not happiness. That feels like not freedom.
Right.
And so in my opinion, that is an evil because it's not only taking lives, but it's taking away free will. So I'm on that end.
So you're
I
on
don't
the
know.
free will end, not the...
I just so you are aware, I am always Team Captain America. And that will make more sense in future movies. Yeah.
Well, I mean, for the record, I am also, pro free will, but...
Yeah.
But I feel like one of the things, again, that makes this movie strong is it's not ramming that down our throats. It's presenting it to us and asking us to consider, is this a good exchange? Captain America and Nick Fury say no, but it doesn't ever force us to agree with them,
Right.
which I think is a very strong move.
Well, and what's really, not every future Marvel movie will do this, but future Marvel movies will introduce villains where you're like, you know what? They don't have a bad idea.
Yeah.
That's not a terrible thing to do because that
At least-
makes sense.
At least 2 villains.
Yeah, I was just saying, but they do introduce more villains in
Yeah.
the future where you're like,
They're a little more
okay,
complex. than-
okay, I see why you feel the way you do.
Yeah.
But obviously, in the end of the day, there's something that's still, again, I think it's just all about the method.
Yeah.
I think that's what defines the
Well,
villain versus the hero.
Okay, I don't subscribe to utilitarian ethics, but
Okay.
my job here
That,
is to.
that was my
Winky
way.
face.
I was finally getting you to admit it.
I don't because it's a flawed.
Which one's not flawed, Dr. Dietz?
They're all flawed.
Oh, so
Which is why.
so
which
don't
is-
even get into philosophies,
No.
people. I'm just joking.
Yeah, so all of the ethical schools have strengths,
Yeah.
but they also all have weaknesses,
Yeah.
which is kind of what I've been trying to establish as we've gone through this.
Yeah.
Utilitarian ethics works great when it's not a life or death thing. It's just the idea that a group of people
Yeah.
making a very small sacrifice,
For the rest.
that's when I think utilitarian ethics shines.
Okay.
In these kind of situations, no. Like there's a standard thought experiment in ethics. So you've got 5 people that need 5 different organs. Do you take one healthy person,
Chop.
kill them so that these 5 people can live? That's a standard thought experiment for utilitarian ethics. This takes that to, the whole planet.
Yeah, that's
Um,
an extreme
so-
case.
Yeah. Nice.
If you can keep it local and the cost is not extremely high, I think utilitarian ethics is a great way to decide what's right and wrong. But when you're talking about taking lives, that's when I think utilitarian ethics starts to break down.
Yeah, but I didn't kill those people. Other people.
That's true.
I just
I was
benefit from the world they left.
But do
Just
you
following
support the
orders.
people that implemented? Are you not part of the problem?
Yeah.
You're not part of the solution?
My vote doesn't even count, so I'm
Oh,
just,
jeez.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
All right. So that was philosophy.
I like.
and
You know what?
ethics.
That was maybe the best one ever.
Why is that?
I don't know. It was just really engaging, I guess.
Oh, good. So we got the dessert still.
What did someone eat something in this movie?
There
That's
was bubble gum.
Oh yeah. The bubble gum is probably the dessert. I just don't like gum, so I'm like yuck. I don't know.
What's the bubble gum?
Oh, he put the chip, the MacGuffin, in the vending machine, and Black Widow got it.
She bought all the gum so she could get the chip later on. So we went back to the hospital to look for it, and it wasn't there, and she was standing behind him blowing some bubble gum.
Oh, that's what that was about.
Yeah,
Okay.
he put. What was kind of there's something kind of cool about that little part because she's like, "You're a bad liar." Then the next scene, he's talking to Robert Redford, and he asks the same question. He knows to be a better liar that time.
He adapted.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool.
I
little
noticed
thing.
that as well.
Really?
But I don't think anybody else ate any food.
Yeah, I think it's just the
Dang.
bubble gum, which is disappointing because gum's gross.
Oh. I'll agree to disagree.
I would say I like to chew
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
once in a while.
I'm an occasional gum consumer.
Not
I am-
bubblegum. I'm not a fan of bubblegum, but
I'm in the pro gum camps. Or at least the pro access to gum camp.
Okay.
I don't want you to take my freedom away. I want to have the choice to chew.
I only have one final, well, two if you let me, but I have one final note. It actually comes from Quentin Tarantino. He was on a podcast. And he said there's been a marvelization of Hollywood. And he says, is you have all these actors who've become famous playing these characters, but they're not movie stars. Captain America is the star. Thor is the star. Chris Hemsworth is not the star. Chris Evans is not the star.
I think they do now.
I don't know, actually. Like MCU right now.
No, I'm talking about like
Chris Hemsworth.
people that have left the MCU. Like Chris Evans is no longer going to play Captain America.
Maybe, yeah.
And
And
what
I-
is he going to do now?
But like, has
Probably
he?
like indie films.
But have they proven?
Right. I think that's what he's saying, right?
Yeah. Well,
He'll
it's,
always be Captain America.
He'll always be Captain America. Like, I guess Chris Hemsworth has an action series on Netflix, Extraction. Is he a movie star to attract enough people to different movies now?
I would say no.
I don't know.
It's like John Krasinski trying to become Jack Reacher.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Jack Ryan.
I watched the first season of that. I can't see him as, and I think
But
Tarantino's right.
Yeah, I don't.
So
think
I'm going
we
to
don't
agree
go
with
see-
one of the greatest directors of all time.
We don't go see movies for the actors. We see it because the character we like is in it.
Couldn't
so.
we say that argument for like any like child actor that they had like a big breakout as a childhood actor, and now that's all we see them as, like Daniel Radcliffe?
Well, actually, I was going to bring him up as a counterexample to Tarantino because I think Daniel Radcliffe. Initially, I was thinking he's always going to be Harry Potter, but he's a good actor.
He's
He is,
successfully
but
moved
can
away, I
he
think.
ever step away from that role?
I think
I
he
think so.
has.
Okay.
Personally.
I agree. Like we were talking about this exact thing a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Like Guns Akimbo, I don't know if anyone but me has ever seen it, but he is very much not even remotely Harry Potter in that
Right.
movie.
Or
and
Swiss Army Man.
and he's credible at it. But I think he's one of the very few examples of that. But
Mhm.
Isn't it kind of the goal of almost every single actor now
To be in Marvel?
to be like a star in a hero movie?
I don't know. It's kind of moved away from it, I think,
Well,
present day 2024 actors, but I don't, maybe not.
I don't know. Like, I mean, just recently, it was a huge reveal of who's playing in Fantastic Four. And I think any Marvel fan still out there, because Marvel's, in my opinion, has kind of fallen apart
Yes,
a little bit
for
in
sure.
organization.
Well, like,
But aren't these actors still wanting these jobs? And is it because of job security or because of stardom?
Or-
And I'm
I don't
legitimately just
know.
asking.
Marvel's done this. They stopped in 2014 when this was coming out. We can guarantee, like, trilogies almost. Iron Man already had a trilogy. Captain America's probably going to get one. Thor's going to get one. Ant-Man's going to get one and stuff. But now we've had multiple Marvel movies with no sequels lined up even. Like Eternals, the Shang-Chi.
But you know what I mean, though? Like,
Yeah.
Those stars, I think, are always super excited to be in that spotlight, to be part of such a long-lasting...
You know what? Maybe you're right because Madam Web just came out, which is not MCU. It's Sony
And Marvel.
and Marvel, but not MCU. Big difference. But those actors 100% thought they were going to be in the MCU. Like, if you watch interviews, and people have, like, found Instagram posts like, I'm so excited to join this family. You're not joining the family. That's a separate thing that's unrelated and
Yeah,
with diminishing returns. But,
which is a shame, but...
yeah,
Because it seems like...
I don't know. I think there are actors who are like, I'm above such things. But,
I think if they were given the choice, I think they'd jump on it as soon as they could.
yeah.
Sam Rockwell, he originally was going
Hammer?
to be Tony Stark.
Oh, yeah.
He was originally going to be Tony Stark, and then he lost the role to Robert Downey Jr., but the director liked Sam Rockwell so much that he became the villain in Iron Man 2.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like
And he still joined, even though he was a one-movie show.
from Iron Man to Endgame, it was just exciting. Everyone was excited.
Oh, yeah.
Post Endgame, it's not the same, so I don't
It's
know.
not. But I guarantee, like, these actors that are now in Fantastic Four roles, I bet you don't see them complaining. I don't know if that's, isn't that kind of making it big?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't think Chris Evans minds being considered Captain America.
Well,
Oh, we got to find out what the next movie is. Jason's Choice is next.
yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So I gave Ryan 3 options.
Mhm.
He picked the scariest one. So this will be our
The scariest movie we've ever covered.
this will be our first like legitimate horror movie, Oculus. I will warn you that this is a horror movie in every sense. So there's psychological, there's physical horror. I watch all of my movies on VidAngel or Enjoy Movies Your Way. If you are watching along with us, be forewarned that this movie is not for the faint of heart. But I think, as we were talking about master classes earlier, I think this is just in terms of every aspect of this, building your sense of dread. So that's what we'll be taking apart next week.
Too spooky. Too scary.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see how long. What if I didn't watch it?
If you start crying.
How long I could go with like pretending like I did watch it?
Probably not very long. It's one of my
that
favorite movies. So, so we have that to look forward to next week on Jason's Choice. We'd like to thank our guest. Are we misters? We're not misters.
I introduced myself as Chris.
Okay, well, by Chris. As always, do you want to steal my line again?
I don't even know.
We encourage you.
Embrace totalitarianism.
Yes, that's no. We encourage you to think critically. Don't just let things write you and program you.
Yeah.
The MCU is really good at it, like we've talked about today, with the idea of freedom versus security. The MCU has a pretty clear message. So think critically, dig in, ask questions. Don't let the media that you consume just program your brain.
Yeah.
Fight
Don't become a target to the 3 helicarriers in the sky.
that are no longer in the sky.
Well, no, you want to be target, so that way you don't become the target. You want to be programmed if you want to avoid being killed by a helicarrier.
Oh no.
Okay. Embrace being killed by helicarriers. Fight the system.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Rate, review,
Share,
follow
most
along, share.
importantly.
and we love you.
We do.
All right.
See you next week.
Bye.